Everybody, welcome back. X's and Knowles presented by Knowles 24/7. I am here with Adam Brown. I'm here with Kevin Little. I am Trey Rowland. We are here. It's been a road, but we are here at the final video of our spring position preview storylines to watch series. At this point, Florida State is past the halfway mark of spring football. They're 2 scrimmages down, one that actually got to be viewed by media. I go to Knowles 24/7 to see the observations that the boys had from the catwalk on that. And we're starting to get, I want to say, a better idea of this team, but I think with all the injuries, I don't really know if that's even accurate. We're getting, I guess, a somewhat more clear picture. The team is starting to gel. Things are starting to get installed. And I think today, our last video, we talked about the front 7 or the front 6 is what it's going to be in Tony White's defense. Today, we're talking about the secondary. And this is an interesting room. This is one of those places where I think we can all acknowledge that Florida State is not really recruited to the standard of like the pinnacle of what Florida State recruiting has been. I think anybody, and probably the coaches, if you gave them truth serum, would tell you that. One room where there is actually legitimately recruited high school talent is cornerback and safety. But guys, I'll be honest with you, and I don't know whether it's a mixture of the numbers that are going to be required under this new Tony White defense, or just the fact that it's going to be a lot of guys who haven't really done it before consistently. Now that you had dudes like A.Z. Thomas and Fentrell Cypress leave, even with the talent here, I'm not feeling super confident about these corners and safeties. Kev, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's got to be a conversation about scheme mismatch between what's been recruited, right? I think there was this sense that, over the past few years, we might not be pulling in all the five stars. We might be not pulling on all the best players necessarily according to these recruiting rankings, but these guys fit our system.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are reliable. We feel like they're coachable, they're teachable, they're guys that we have a relationship, whatever the excuse is. Well, now you've got a completely different system. You're going to be having 3 safeties that you all expect to enter the box and be physical players, and frankly, you have a lot of safeties on the roster that have not shown to be particularly physical. You brought in these long corners. You have Quindarius Jones, you have Charles Lester, you have these 6-foot Kai Bates, 6'1", 6'2" plus guys. These are man corners. These are guys that are used to bump and run. These are guys that are used to pressing. These are guys who are used to being able to use their length as leverage against man coverage. Now you're going to ask them to play in space as a zone corner. Are they able to do that? Right. So I think there's a big question for me about how does the scheme match the talent? Are these man corners going to be able to play zone effectively, or are they going to get in trouble because they don't have the spatial agility that you would want because they're long range guys? Are these safeties going to be guys who can fit in the box and be consistent run presences like you need them to be? Or are they too small for that? Are they not physical enough for that? Is that something that they can develop into?
Adam, I know you think a lot of Tony White as like a scheme guy and his pedigree of the defenses that he's coordinated. He's been a top coordinator for many years across many different programs, and I think he's highly respected by you of all people.
Yep.
What do you think about, Kev was talking about the scheme mismatches versus the personnel? What is your estimation of, I guess, explain to the viewer, what is going to be demanded more from this Tony White secondary than from an Adam Fuller secondary? And who do you think that there is like a talent or like a trait personnel mismatch with those responsibilities?
I mean, as far as like they're going to play a lot more zone than they did under Adam Fuller. Under Adam Fuller, they were a man system. I mean, they played a lot of man match stuff, and you're just not going to see that here. They're going to spot drop underneath. They're going to play true zone coverages on the back end, and not a huge variety of them, but a couple. And particularly in the safety room, it's going to look a lot different. You're going to have safeties matching up and moving around. You're going to have 2 wide safeties that are going to be asked to come down and cover slots in underneath zones. You're going to have those 2 wide safeties also being asked to play deep halves. You're going to have those 2 wide safeties sometimes blitzing, sometimes being asked to fit inside the box. You're going to have a rover safety in the middle of the field that's going to play a deep third. He's also going to be expected to come down and fit in the box in the run game and blitz. So they've got a lot on their plate. Tony White has, in his time as a defensive coordinator at Syracuse and in Nebraska, found ways to help those players be successful. Like he's never had like a really truly bad defense. So I think that speaks to his ability to teach his scheme and to match his scheme to what he's got available to him, even if he doesn't have all the pieces that he's looking for. So I think that that's promising. I think that suggests that he's going to be able to make it work. The corner room is an interesting one. I know Brendan has talked about it quite a bit on the board and on the OTB pod about like they need to go get one. And I don't know if I don't know if I like agree. I'm not sure. I'm kind of.
Do you think that they need to get a secondary player?
I think no. I don't think they need another safety. I don't agree with Kev on that. When he was talking about it earlier, specifically the physicality part. Like I think we've seen Earl Little be able to come down and hit people. Like if there's anything he did do last year, it was show that he could come from the back end and make a tackle. I think they're going to simplify his role significantly and help him be successful. KJ Kirkland's a guy that we've seen be able to play some coverage and also be able to play in the box a little bit. So he's not a guy I'm too worried about. And then Edwin Joseph is he's out for the rest of the spring. But he's a guy that I have some level of confidence that he can play that field safety role, which is kind of basically a nickel. There's a lot of nickel stuff there to it. It's just going to be playing a little bit far off the ball at times. So I've got some level of confidence in like those 3. But I think when you get past that, you're in big trouble. But I think that's just kind of the name of the game for the entire defense. If anything, I think they need to go get a guy that's got zone eyes. And when I say zone eyes, like it understands how to read a quarterback. They're going to teach all these things, but a lot of these guys haven't done it. They're used to turning and running in the hip pocket. Like they need to learn how to read a quarterback's drop and understand and have accurate eyes and eye discipline to be able to do that, to be able to be a successful zone corner. I don't know if they've got that on the roster because they haven't gone out and recruited those guys. They haven't been teaching that over the past few years. Like these are things that you've got to have some time in and time invested into you to be good at. And that's what worries me more than anything. Like I think they've got guys that you can throw out there and they can be successful and have the physical attributes that you're looking for. A Charles Lester, a Jamari Howard, a Kai Bates, a Jabril Rawls, a Quindarius Jones, but like Q's a man corner. He's a handsy physical man corner. That's what you can't do in zone coverage. You can't be super physical all the time. You can't be grabby all the time. Like you've got to have patience in zone, and that worries me. Like I would be looking to try to go get a true zone corner because I think that's something that I think that's an area they're lacking right now.
So, Kev, number one, do you agree with his assessment that, and from what it sounds like, Adam, you don't think adding another secondary player is like dire, but if you did, you would add like a reliable zone corner. And I'd imagine the market for that isn't going to be too crazy, right?
I wouldn't think it would be. I mean, I'm not saying you got to go out there and get the best corner in the world. I just think you got to get a guy that you can throw out there, has some experience doing the coverages, running the coverages that you're going to be, deploying this year. And
it could be like, and even like a dude with a ton of snaps, he
wouldn't
be with Tony White's role, but like a Stephon Thompson role where you have like a super veteran guy who's almost like another coach for that young room.
Yeah.
Now, Kev, do you agree with Adam's assessment of that as far as what he just said on the transfer portal? And another question that I have for you after that is sticking with the corner room. Who's a name that's going to have the easiest time making that primarily man to zone transition? And who's a guy who might be lost in the shuffle with this scheme, particularly at corner?
Yeah. So I think where AB's coming from, I agree with. I think there is a concern. There's just an overall lack of experience in this corner room.
And safety too, to be honest with you, outside of like Shaheem Brown, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of unknowns, and all these guys got reps as backups on a 2-win football team, and so that colors how you see them, how you want to interpret them. If I'm going to play devil's advocate to AB's point, it's that I would rather have a zone. I'd rather have a man corner that I can teach zone than a zone corner that has to play man. That's an easier transition to make. It is easier to play good zone defense than it is to play good man defense. It's very taxing on a corner to have to play man, and these guys have traits that can, translate. It never hurts to be rangy and 6'2"
Physical
and physical.
long,
Like those are traits that pass through. But when you ask who's going to succeed, I have no idea. Like, who?
What about your guy, bro? What about the Q daddy? What about Quiznos?
I like Quindarius, but like I liked him as a man corner. None of these corners have enough reps for you to say like, yeah, I feel supremely confident that this guy's going to step up over this guy. I can look at their high school tape or the minimum snaps they took last year, but there is no experience here. You're replacing some experienced corners. There are big question marks about who's going to step up, and unfortunately, why I feel a little bit less sturdy about the safeties is because last year we got some answers to how these guys are going to play at the next level, and I didn't feel like they as a whole did a great job of stepping up and improving themselves. So Conrad Hussey looked really promising out of the gate, but just something got in his head, and he's just not been the same guy. Maybe they can recapture that. But
and he's missing spring too. Like these are guys that the talented dudes like the Edwin Josephs, moving on to the safety room, like you said, the guys who have shown promise either from the stuff they've done on the field or from their like recruiting pedigree, like Conrad Hussey and Edwin Joseph, those guys are missing spring when a lot of this, like, a lot of this chemistry is developing in the back end. Like that's a concern, man. Like it's not a killer and they'll be back for fall. At least that's what it's being, said, but it injects a level of uncertainty in the defensive back position at Florida State that I think is jarring for fans of this program, and especially given how they've recruited. There is talent there, but I feel like this has been the position preview where we've asked the most questions, and I don't feel like we've given a lot of answers yet because I don't think there are any.
Yeah, and something that I think needs to be considered and talked about, when Adam Fuller's defense was at its best, when things were clicking, the secondary was a strength. If you look at 2023, the undefeated regular season, and 2022, you had like a top 15 passing defense. Like teams were not able to throw the ball effectively on this team. And because they played man coverage, they played it well. When you play zone coverage, you leave yourself open to manipulation by quarterbacks who can use their eyes to manipulate zone defenders. You can have zone beaters that are designed to get guys open if what coverage is coming. They're going to be more likely to bring pressure, more likely to be exotic with their pressures, which means that they're going to have less help on the backside. And the safeties are going to be involved in the run game, which means that they're going to have less help behind them. So there's going to be a sense that there's going to be growing pains. Yes, it's going to be simpler. Yes, it's in general easier to play a spot drop zone than it is to play all this matching man that they were playing. But there's going to be some growing pains, and there's a lot of new players here that haven't played in this kind of system, and there's going to be growing pains with that too. So I wouldn't be surprised if the secondary is kind of what gets picked on this defense.
Adam, you mentioned there's going to be some ways that Tony White can make this transition for a lot of these players easier. How can he do that? And what are a lot of the things that you're going to see Florida State fans are going to see out of this secondary that is going to be different from them, like in the past? Like what's something on game one where people are going to go, oh, that's different. Like give them like kind of like a little bit of a preview.
They're going to play with zone coverage.
Yeah, that's so kind of the big one.
The first thing, like, like how's he going to make it easier on her? He's going to find things that they're successful at, and he's going to tailor his scheme to that.
What do you anticipate those things to be based on? We know who the personnel is going to be. We don't know who's going to start where and everything like that. But based on the glob of dudes that we know can fill these roles, what are some things that we think they're good at?
I think you're going to see some cover 3. I think you're going to see some cover 4. Like, I think you're going to see him find things that they were good at and have experience with under Adam Fuller, like playing some cover 4 and trying to utilize some of that. Or if it's not cover 4, maybe play some cover 2. I think he's going to do some of that stuff and play some cover 3. Like he's going to find things that these guys have been able to do and shown that maybe they could do and use some of that now. I will say, like, one benefit to having a young secondary is they haven't spent 4 years having man coverage stuff shoved down their throat.
Right. More of a blank slate, right?
Yeah. Correct. So there's that's going to be helpful for them that they're starting with more of a blank slate, and they're going to be able to go in there and hopefully pick this stuff up. So one thing, he's just going to find ways to run things that they're good at and that they can show that they can be successful with, whether that be cover 3, cover 4, cover 6. I mean, there's going to be a variety of things, but he's going to be able to tailor his play sheet to their skill sets. And just as far as what can people expect to be different, one, you're going to see zone coverage. I mean, it's something people have banged the drum for over the last couple of years, and they've run some zone stuff, but they've been a man-based system. You're going to see true guys dropping into zones. I mean, it just is what it is. Linebackers underneath dropping into zones. You're going to see that. And then you're going to see a lot of games with these safeties. They're going to have 3 safeties on the field at all times. There's been some debate. Is it a 4-man front? Is it a 3-man front? There are going to be 3 safeties on the field at any given time. It's not going to change. That really seems to be
the foundation.
Yeah, it really seems to be the foundation more so than the front of what Tony White wants to do. And it always kind of has been with the 3 down front. So you're going to see those 3 guys moving around. They're not going to lie. They're not going to be stagnant. They're not going to line up at 12 yards, 15 yards deep like you would have seen in an Adam Fuller defense with his 2 safeties and roll down late. No, those guys are going to be constantly moving around and trying to create a muddy picture for the offense.
So question for you, then I'll throw one to Kev, and then I think we'll kind of wrap it up. But yeah. Adam, who's a dude right now that either we're not talking about a lot or a newcomer, somebody that could really benefit from this scheme change on the defensive backfield? The guy that we haven't talked about that's getting a lot of praise in camp is true freshman Shamar Arnaud. He's been getting a lot of camp, so that could be possibly a candidate. Yeah. But who's a guy that maybe either we're not talking about right now or a newcomer either in the spring or a guy coming in the summer that could really benefit from the tutelage and the scheme of Tony White from the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's a guy not getting talked about, but Earl Little is the guy I'm going to keep saying all off season.
Gotten a lot of praise, dude. He was called him.
Yeah, him. Well, I don't know shit about that, but that is a guy who I think this is really kind of designed for. I think you can build your secondary around him for with this system at the rover spot. I think you can put him at that rover spot. You can let him be aggressive as a downhill fitter. And then all he's got to really do beyond that is play some midfield coverage. But if you really wanted to play games, you could line him up out at nickel. We've seen him at least do it. He's at least got exposure to it. It wasn't great last year, but that whole system and that whole team was fractured. So I don't know how much stock I want to put into that. True. But I know he's a talented football player. He's got tons of tape to show that. I know he's physical. I've seen him tackle. I saw him in that Miami game come downhill and just light people up. Like I believe I'm buying Earl Little Jr. as the rover safety this year. If that's where he lines up at, that's where I think he's going to be. That's where I think he fits best. And we'll see if they believe the same thing. And then another guy that I think maybe is going to kind of going under the radar right now is Shaheem Brown. Again, in a defense that wants to just really be multiple and do all kinds of things and line guys up all over the place, Shaheem Brown is really the ultimate tool. Again, not his career has been a roller coaster of sorts, but his highs have been really high.
Mhm.
And I think that's a guy you could put down in the box. You can line up back deep. You can put him on a hash. You can find good matchups for him and let him be successful. Tony White believes in finding matchups. Mike Norvell's always preached about an offense built
Offensive playmakers.
Yeah, I always kind of thought that was bullshit, but with Tony White, like I think he finds a way to put his guys in position to be successful. And I think a guy like Shaheem Brown is a dude you can do that with.
And that's a good point. It's funny you mentioned Shaheem Brown. We're talking about guys without a lot of starting reps. It was like, this was the dude who was like penciled in as the Jamie Robinson heir apparent Swiss Army knife guy who, because of that versatility, we thought was like one of the most important players on the entire team last year. And he just kind of faded off into the ether. It was very, very just
head and arse.
Yeah, a lot of that. It's interesting. This could be a renaissance for him, man, because having a defense, much like when Adam Fuller like unlocked Jamie Robinson, where it was like, hey, just go be impactful and go do a bunch of different stuff. He flourished. Maybe you could see that with Shaheem Brown. So Kev, to you, same question I asked Adam, potential like breakout guy in this scheme. And then what are, from a scheme standpoint, what are the benefits of having three safeties on the field at all times? And what are some of the potential things you expose yourself to by having three safeties on the field all the time?
Yeah. So,
any order you want, dealer's choice.
I do think the corners are gonna look good as a unit. So I'll just back my boy Quindarius because that's the meme at this point. But I think it'll be good for him to actually not be physical. He had a tendency to be over physical. He had a tendency to PI. I'm looking at kind of the stats of Nebraska's defense last year when it comes to secondary. They're pretty even in their split between cover one, so a man coverage, cover two, and cover three, which are both zone coverages. So each one of those, and quarters. So that they ran each one of those just over 20% of the time. A pretty even split. So they're very multiple. I have a feeling that their cover two is more like a, Tampa 2, where that rover was sitting in the middle of the field, which, realistically is more of a cover 3. But either way, they had a pretty even split amongst coverages. I think that makes them harder to read. But someone like Quindarius, one of these longer corners, they ran the 5th most cover 2 in the country. What cover 2 allows you to do is to bring corners off the edge, right? They're normally in those flats. In cover 2, corners have run responsibility in general, so they can come off the edge. You can use that boundary guy, that long, lanky strider guy, to get some momentum into the backfield. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see kind of some corners getting, maybe not getting sacks, but getting pressures, getting some things like that. One thing I do think is a concern is they were 130th in the country on EPA per play on passes over 20 yards.
Yeah, it's a problem for this defense.
Oh, like they get bombed on pretty with regularity.
Yep.
Yes, that is Achilles' heel. That's how you get them. Indiana put up just tons of points on them, just throwing it up to guys on the outside. I think if you're trying to support the notion that this team's going to take a big step forward, you say, well, you've got these long, rangy corners who are used to being on an island. They're designed to be on an island. They're 6'2". They can go stride for stride with these guys down the field, and maybe that helps. Maybe the personnel helps cover some of this weakness. So I'm kind of hopeful that these corners can find a new life and potentially slot in a way that might be less conventional, but might kind of cover some of the holes that you might find in this defense.
Well said. Good stats. Very good stats. It'll be interesting. Do they make up for, just because the first time I'm hearing those stats, do they make up for that like explosive play rate by creating like a bunch of more turnovers or like more negatives? Like what's the trade-off? Like if they're giving up the big play, what are they stopping? The run?
So the
run.
most,
okay.
Yeah, they're good at stopping the run, and the most efficient passing plays in football are between 11 and 20 air yards. So kind of hitting over that linebacker underneath the safety.
This is going to look so much different than what we saw with Adam Fuller, like teams like being able to like matriculate it down the field and then tighten up in the red zone. Is it kind of like the polar opposite where they're going to have a lower success rate but give up more explosives?
Yep. They're pretty elite in that kind of intermediate and defending that intermediate zone. So that kind of tells you where they want their safeties to be. They're keeping their safeties between 10 to 20 yards, which is pretty short, and it's putting corners on islands.
They get killed by Mills, if I recall correctly.
Yep. So Mills concept, you occupy one of the safeties with a intermediate route, usually like a dig or a hitch at about 10 yards, 15 yards. And then you run a post on the outside, which means that the corner now no longer has safety help on the inside of them. It's a cover 4 killer. It can be a cover 3 killer depending on how you're playing. And if the safeties, as it seems by these stats, are playing between 11 and 20 yards, then yeah, you're putting your corners on islands, and maybe that's a good thing with the personnel they have.
Yep. Do we even want the smoke of like, these are the things Tony White's defense is going to be good at defending, and these are the ways they could get got, or would we be getting out state secrets?
We just gave away state secrets.
I don't know. It's a long off season, guys. It sounds like a good video to me. We'll consider it, but that's interesting stuff. I don't have anything else in particular. Like you said, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of ways this could work really, really well with who you got. And there's a lot of ways where guys who aren't used to being the dude in the spotlight could fall on their face. I feel like you could wash, rinse, and repeat for a couple other position groups on this team, man. In 2025, it feels like the interest in the program is kind of depressed at the moment, whether it's like it feels like we're in the doldrums a little bit. And I don't know if that's going to continue, because when you look at it objectively, this is a pivotal year that's also very interesting from a how in the hell is all this stuff going to work together standpoint. All the new coordinators, the new schemes, the new guys playing together. Like, man, what an intriguing year for Florida State football. I don't have anything else, guys. If you want to be first to watch our videos, subscribe to the X's and Knowles YouTube channel. Put those notifications on, and you will see our videos as soon as they drop.
Leave a comment. Drop a comment.
Hey, off season's coming up. What do you guys want to see? Suggest the type of video. What do you want to get some more? There are so many questions around this Florida State football program for 2025. You tell us what you want answers to, and we will deliver, because we are servants of you, the people, and we love you, the people. I have nothing else, guys. Spring football's almost over. We're getting into summer, and then football season's right around the corner. We love you guys. Adam's ready. Kevin's ready. I'm ready. Keep chopping. We love you guys. See you on the message board.